Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. I get asked all the time about getting started with sublimation. So I wanted to do a video with some ideas for you where you can get started with sublimation with no printer required. So if you want to get started on your sublimation journey, are thinking about getting into sublimation, but don't want to invest in a printer quite yet, this video is for you. So without a printer, there are several things you can do in order to give sublimation a try. But before we get into those methods, first I want to tell you the minimum requirements for sublimation. So for sublimation, you will need some type of sublimation ink, and we're going to talk about the varieties that you can use that don't require a printer. And then you will also need some type of sublimation blank. So in order for the sublimation process to occur, you need some kind of polyester. Either polyester in fabric form, at least 60%, or a blank that has a polyester coating on it. So look for blanks that say they're for sublimation or say they're for infusible ink, and those will work for your sublimation projects. Now when you're getting started, a very easy way to do that is with a polyester shirt. Just remember that 100% polyester that is white will work best. Sublimation ink, in whatever form you use it in, is translucent. So you can see the blank color through the sublimation ink. So starting with white blanks that have a polyester coating or are made from polyester is your best bet. Start easy and work your way up to more complicated projects is always my best advice. So now you want to get started with sublimation, but you don't have a printer. What are the ways you can do that? First of all, if you have a Cricut machine, Infusible Ink is a great gateway into sublimation. Infusible Ink uses the sublimation process. However, there are a couple different forms. The first is Infusible Ink sheets, which is sort of a sheet of Infusible Ink that you can cut with your Cricut machine. And once it's cut, you can apply to those sublimation surfaces that I talked about. I've made a wide variety of things with Infusible Ink, including coasters, mugs, shirts, and so much more. So anything that you could sublimate, you could use Infusible Ink instead. Now, Infusible Ink comes in sheet forms, but it also comes in markers and pens. Other brands make sublimation markers as well. So with sublimation markers, you can get the Infusible Ink brand, you can get the Artesprix brand. Caesar even makes a line of sublimation markers. There are some other brands on the market as well. All of them use sublimation ink in marker or pen form. Now you can either draw freehand with these, or you can use your Cricut machine to draw. Now something with sublimation we didn't talk about at the beginning is that whatever design you use will need to be mirrored, because when you put it on your surface, it will be flipped. So that means if you're freehand drawing with some pens and want to write a name, you would have to write the name backwards. Now there are tons of tips, tricks, hacks out there to do that with, but just keep that in mind for all of these methods, but especially I think with a marker, because you tend to just, draw and not think about that the whole entire thing will be reversed. So do think about that as you're making your designs for all of these methods where you don't use a printer. So with the sublimation markers, like I said, you can draw, you can also color in different things. And say you had a sublimation printer, you might even want to get into some of these different mediums, because you can actually print black and white with your sublimation printer and use the markers sort of like coloring pages with kids and then transfer those designs. So I think a lot of these are even fun if you have a printer. So my next medium is actually one of my favorites. It's Sublimation Paint. So you can paint on regular copy paper and then allow that to dry and then transfer it just like it was any sublimation. So whether you're an artist and you love to paint, or you just want to make really cool background type things and put them on tumblers, and I've even made my own Infusible Ink sheets with the Sublimation Paint. There are tons of different things that you can do with those paints, and I actually love to use them even though I have a sublimation printer. So the Sublimation Paint, I feel like, gets into the artistic side of sublimation, so you can have that artistic side if you are very artistic, love to paint, and still use sublimation and get those very permanent results. My next option is actually sublimation stamp pads. Now there are stamp pads as well as stamp ink refills. So the stamp pads you could use with your craft stamps. So say you're a paper crafter, you have a large stamp collection, you can just buy the stamp pads and use those with the stamps you already have to make sublimation prints. Now you always want to remember that those will need to be mirrored, so you might have to do some hacks or some tricks, or use stamps that would look okay either way. And then the refills for those are actually Sublimation Ink, and they're intended to be used like on the pad to sort of refill, but I've used those a wide variety of ways. I've used those in different techniques to actually create sublimation prints and make some really cool project ideas. And then finally, the step probably before you got a sublimation printer, or it was my step before I got a printer, was I actually ordered sublimation prints. There are a wide variety of sources where you can order sublimation prints of any size and sort of give them a try at home. And that is definitely how I personally got hooked on sublimation. I ordered some sublimation prints off like a seller on Etsy, used those at home for a couple projects, and I immediately knew that I wanted a sublimation printer. So do beware that some of these methods, or probably all of them, might get you hooked on sublimation, and I feel like it'll definitely help you decide if you want to take that next investment or not. Now for all of these methods, I have a ton of videos for you explaining each of the methods in detail. So what I'm going to do in the description below this video is I'm going to link you to several videos. So if you want to know exactly how to use the Sublimation Paint or the Sublimation stamp pads, for instance, you will find a video in the description below this one that will explain my entire process. And I'll link to several different ones because, like I said, I've used several different techniques with a lot of these mediums. And then of course I will link to where to purchase each of these mediums below as well. So you can head there if you're really intrigued by one of these and want to give it a try for yourself. I really do think you'll enjoy some of these if you have a sublimation printer or you do not. Now, if you want to find out my sources for purchasing sublimation prints, I have a video for that as well, and I will link to that below. And I definitely think that once you give sublimation prints a try, you'll definitely be hooked. So now, when you're getting started with sublimation, of course there is a lot to learn. There's a learning curve. I mentioned at the beginning to start simple. Start with a simple project, go the easy route with your first few projects, gain some confidence, and then move on to more complicated projects. However, I do have a free sublimation class for you. So I will link to it in the description below this video. You just sign up, you get emails sent to your email inbox. It's actually sent over 7 days. However, you could save the emails and do the class at your own pace. It will walk you through sublimation from the very beginning and teach you everything you need to know. So if you are interested in getting started with sublimation, don't have a printer, give some of these methods a try, definitely join my free sublimation class. And that way, if you decide to purchase a printer, you can move forward with the class and learn everything you need to know about sublimation and doing it the right way. So I hope this video helped you get started with sublimation. I know it's one of my favorite crafting techniques, and hopefully it will be yours soon as well. So thank you so much for joining me. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about any of these methods, drop down in the comment section, ask away. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.